let's start with the first statement we would like to launch. It's about social media. Lately we've seen a lot going on in the social area. Social media is very popular within our community. We've seen huge groups on Facebook, on Twitter, now we're moving to Instagram. But there seems to be a problem with firearms and social, and it's a very big problem with our community. How do we still reach them? Kelly, you do run quite a big channel, on several channels actually.
So I run an Instagram account. I've got 51,000.2 followers now. I've not really noticed any. I haven't really been pushed off social media. My Instagram and Facebook are still performing quite well. But I did get my YouTube channel demonetized. So they, because the gun channel, were like, no, sorry, bye. But I'm really lucky that it's not my main source of income. It's not my main social media.
Yeah, and I do know Jonathan, for example, he runs Airsoftology. It's quite a lot of followers and views each episode. And he stopped uploading videos like last week because he was afraid his channel was actually banned by YouTube.
Yeah, we had a... Sure. So you may be aware that, oh, by the way, I'm Matt Furey-King. I'm not really part of the Airsoft industry as such. I'm more of an Airsoft player that participates in the politics of Airsoft, interaction between Airsoft and government, so that's really sort of where I'm going. So last week and the week before, a lot of the firearms, especially the air rifle YouTube channels, started being deleted with no warnings. They're basically given 3 strikes, one after the other, removed, and they didn't have any comeback. And we're talking really big channels here, they're big, bigger than the Airsoft channels. And even they just didn't have seemed to have no defense. And Jonathan actually was informing me yesterday. What actually happened is because the moderation on these big social media sites is so huge, it's such a huge task, they outsource the moderation. And what happened is they outsourced to a group that hadn't really vetted the people who were moderating. And what a basic group of people in one of these nameless organisations got together and went, right, we don't like guns, so let's just target air rifle channels. And they were empowered between half a dozen people to just prove these massive channels, these channels which were people's incomes. They spent years and years building them, providing content for YouTube, and and they just like that, they were gone because of their personal political bias. And that's I don't know how you guys feel. I mean, my social media is pretty small, it's only something I dabble in, but I think we're in perhaps where air guns were 2 weeks ago could be where Airsoft might be in a few years. Just, somebody has a bias against us because we look kind of scary and they're like, all guns are bad. And and I think we need to watch out over-invested in platforms which have an anti-gun bias, perhaps.
Yeah, the problem is those are still third-party platforms. Don't have any control. How do you work with that, Bill?
Well, as people can probably tell by the grey in the beard and lack of hair, I've been involved and seen Airsoft Media become a thing. Once upon a time it didn't exist, and that's not so long ago, and it's something that I think we all need to appreciate. Social media is a relatively, in real terms, new thing, and it's something we've all come to accept, we've all come to use, and we've all become involved with. I think whatever your level of involvement with airsoft or shooting sports in general, we've been in a very privileged and very lucky position to see channels grow, new platforms develop, and people become involved. Now, for me, I don't use any form of social media other than for messaging, and that's me. I'm old, it's fine. But it's been a really, really good situation to see the involvement from people grow and grow and grow, and suddenly, not only in airsoft, but in all forms of shooting sports, this is now under attack worldwide. People have invested in platforms. I'm sitting here with one of my great friends, and I've seen this person grow and grow and grow and have more and more of a following, which I'm insanely proud of. At the same time, I'm also sitting back as somebody that is not involved in social media going, wow, this is really, really fragile. All it takes is for someone to pull the plug, and all that investment in time, all that investment in people will disappear like that, it's gone. So I think we as an industry, how do we look at how we communicate as much as anything between ourselves and how we protect certain platforms? And from my perspective, I have a foot in both camps, both for real firearms and for airsoft replicas, and how as a community, as a shooting sports community, can we actually become involved at a greater level to protect one another. That's, I feel, where we're standing right now, and it's a crossroads where we need the acceptance from the wider shooting sports community, and they need to accept that we as Airsoft are here to stay, and we are part of that community. It's not a time I feel that we can stand alone.
Totally agree with that, Bill. Totally agree. Tim, a question for you. Sure. You have quite a big audience, also on Red Bull TV. Do you have any concerns lately with latest developments?
Honestly, yes, because the channel is pretty much my life, and yeah, that's all I know. So but I've been told that above a certain amount of followers or subscribers within the industry, you should be okay, you should be fine. But you're right, they could pull the plug at any moment, and it's certainly unfair on somebody like me, because then I'm going to have to upload my videos on Vimeo, and nobody wants that. But I'm just going to have to find some other forms of social media to do it. Nothing is ever going to pull the plug on Airsoft. So we've always been a great community, and we always stick together. But yeah, at the moment, YouTube can do anything they want.
So you think basically it doesn't matter what platform there is, we might move to Vero or whatever, we'll go on with the message.
Sorry, did I say a little something?
Right.
So one of the options that we do have is to more heavily invest in outright pro firearms platforms. I want to introduce a man stood at the back here, a good friend of mine, Graham Hoffman. Say hello, Graham. He runs Airsoft Nation, which is a UK Airsoft social media site. So you can post anything Airsoft on there, and you know it's going to be secure in perpetuity.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
That's one solution, is for us to start thinking about building up our own social media outlets and diversifying off YouTube and Facebook and that, which we have proven to be hostile.
Hi Matt, are we working? Yeah, I was going to make the same point that you just made there really. I think it's important to not forget that when we are dealing with social media, we're essentially just using a third party out of convenience. The key to avoiding all the problems is to actually put some time and investment into creating something of our own and get out of the habit of dumping our content into the hands of somebody else. Right. I mean, it should come as no surprise really, because the terms and conditions of all of these media sites do state that as soon as you've uploaded everything, you've basically given them carte blanche to do whatever the hell they want with it. So yeah, maybe we should just stop thinking about dumping what we create into somebody else's hands and accept the fact that we are sacrificing control for convenience.
I would just add one thing to it. Mike from borderwar.cz. I remember 10 years ago when I was starting to kind of inviting people. There was this Facebook was not really the thing, yeah. I like those days. But there was something called Airsoft forums, yeah? And every country had few, and of course they had all their politics and clashes. They just belonged to the hobby. And I think that was the time when the community was really kind of like sticking together, exchanging communication and having their discussions locally and sometimes internationally, where now it seems to me is like, oh, I have an engineer, I put it on the Facebook, yeah? And then there is so many pictures, you know, millions of pictures. I don't know who has time to watch all of it. I'm not that old like you are. But it's just so, I would say sometimes it's too much, you know? You just get completely lost in it. And important messages are, let's say, not being visible. So, for example, what I try to do, I try not to be dependent on these Facebooks, yeah? Because, okay, I'm an event organizer, but still I need to communicate with people. But I'm, for many years, building my contact. I have my own forum, because if somebody pulls the plug, I just don't want to close doing events because nobody knows about it. It's just, I think we should have, as you said, this kind of like a backup, like what if, because to pull the plug is very, you know, somebody picks the phone and that's it, you know?
Yeah, it's one click, isn't it?
Yeah, we spend our lives in it, yeah, we are living it, the community is living it, and we have people who follow us, and it would be just a pity to just then spend I don't know, a year to just bring the people together, because at the end you will build your own pages and start luring them back, you know, somehow. And maybe we should get ready for it for the future, maybe, at least I am. And also this social media, it's like a coin with two sides, yeah? Sometimes it makes great thing, but sometimes it also brings kind of like, I don't want to say hypocrites, but it happened to me, it was funny, there was some German politician, needed something important, so he, let's say, invented a story which was not true.
We didn't start with the ceremony.
Is this like the Gong Show? Is that
And then,
we
were all of a sudden facing something which was like a complete like false interpretation of what we do, just for the sake of some local elections somewhere, you know. And then I look on it, I said, well, this is not just about putting the pictures of us and say, yeah, it's nice, you know. There is a lot of aspects and a lot of misinterpretation, especially, you know, from this political discussion, you know. And this
Intentional.
Intentional, yeah. It's like if you look on the European Commission, they like to regulate everything, and the first proposal was definitely done by the experts, it was obvious. And they definitely looked on the Facebook action and say, yeah, these are the people, the strange people.
Well, when we in UKAPU go and talk to the Home Office, we sort of sit down and they say, yeah, how things going, Airsoft? And we go, yeah, you know, going smooth. And they go, okay, well, we've looked on the forum and this group and these pages, and you know, you're doing this and this, and you know, they watch us, they watch what we're posting.
I mean, I think to your point, you brought up a point of bringing out your content, putting it out there to the world, and getting it to someone else's hands. I think, unfortunately, that is the nature of what we do. Being social media, I mean, myself, I always look at my content. Once I hit that publish button, I've sent my child into the world. And they're off to college, and they might come home, they might not, in my mind. That content is gone, and that content not only belongs to those, unfortunately, onto the platforms you use, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever platform that might be, but ultimately it belongs to your viewers, your fans, the people that are desperately waiting for that next piece of whatever you create that goes out there. So I kind of had to change my rethinking of social media to the point of understanding that once you create something, once you send it out, it really, truly does not belong to you anymore. It can be used in absolutely any way. I mean, fair use laws do vary a little bit, but just speaking from a United States perspective, my video can legally, based in the US, be reinterpreted, and people can do commentary, they can do satire, they can make fun of it, and I have zero control over it based on the laws. So I think as a participant in social media, not just the terms of service of Facebook, the terms of service of Twitter or Instagram or YouTube, you look at the law as a broader picture, that's it. That's really the world we live in as a content creator. You have to just give it out, send it out, and just hope for the best sometimes.
So you propose to be a little bit less precious about what we create and understand that it is disposable. You've created it, it's gone out, it's done its job, and that's, we need to accept that.
I don't know about disposable being the right word. I think the right word here versus disposable is permanent. It's the other way around, I believe. I think what we create will be there long after I no longer do airsoft videos, you know?
But in the context of what we were talking about it being removed, it being taken down.
Yeah, especially the big hit here lately with YouTube and YouTube using a third-party company to manage their takedowns, yes. I think that's a threat we all deal with. And I think some of the guys here hit points about, always have a backup plan. I think we should have an anchor, whether I wouldn't, again, do a fallback to another third party. My anchor is still my website. I always think of that. But again, my content, I guess it's a little weird. When I put my content out, I don't count on a YouTube dollar coming back to me ever. Like really. Like tomorrow, monetization went away on YouTube and that was the reason I could stay. I'd be like, okay, click it, done. Because you have to operate as a business. Whether you're like Red Wolf down here in the front row and your job is retail sales, or whether you're at CGMG in the back, Amanda and Charlie and crew, and your job is a distributor and you're creating content, putting it out there, you have a purpose of what you're doing. And Red Wolf's purpose is, while parallel to theirs and to mine, the end, the ultimate, the finesse or the little tweaking is different. Their result is to sell product at a retail level. Their result is to sell product at a distributor level. My result is to create entertaining content that will assist these two companies and companies like them in getting that word out. But yeah, I think it is a risk, always. I mean, we live in a very dangerous world. I'm sorry to go for so long here.
Yeah, we've got a question.
Yeah, to the panel thing, we've made a rod for our own back here with this, because I got into Airsoft when it was site forums, community forums, and Facebook is easy. It's very easy to click and make an event. It's where you can make a page of very niche Airsoft stuff. It's convenient, it's simple, it's easy to do. And we've become lazy, and this is the result of being lazy and not maintaining site forums, community forums, and actually promoting them and maintaining them over the last decade or so.
I'll say this and I'll hand the mic over. I have permanently divorced myself from Facebook. Like, Facebook is on my social media list, it's down here at the bottom.
Next to Twitter?
No, not even Twitter, really. Honestly, I mean, the platforms for me are YouTube with a peripheral and Instagram while it stays somewhat in its current state. I hope there's something that can come back, like some of the new stuff we've been seeing pop up lately. But Facebook has proven itself to throttle, and you're performing well, you get that message, right? Congratulations, this post is doing better than 95% of your other posts. You gotta read the right words there. That is, congratulations, you're doing so well, we'd love to charge you money. But unfortunately, all of us are in a restricted category where we can't pay that money. So we're stuck. So it's congratulations, we're not going to share your content anymore. So whenever you see that congratulations, it's conciliatory instead. So I'll hand it over.
I think, sorry to butt in again, the discussion being about gun-related content being removed from social media, regardless of how the actual social media platforms act. I think we've got a level of responsibility ourselves to realise that the rest of the world really doesn't like guns that much. We know this, it's not going to change. Society at large doesn't really like guns that much. Even America, the home of guns, half of Americans seem to hate guns as much as the other half seem to love them. Okay, I don't know the exact statistics, but you understand the point. Do we need to go down the paintball route? And I know Gaj, we've spoken about this in the past. Paintball proved itself against being wiped out by demilitarising itself, cutting out any level of violence and any kind of physical harm being implied. And then it proved itself from being removed. I know Airsoft in the UK a few years ago went for a battle, and Frank in front of me will be able to attest to this. We had to lobby that Airsoft needed to be realistic. Part of what we did was reenacting war. We used that to retain our realistic replicas, and we needed to do that at the time, but I think we have made a rod for our own back in some senses. Realism implies that we are reenacting killing. Is the future for making Airsoft as a high-profile, growing and healthy pastime, acknowledging that we don't actually want anybody to get hurt? Are we too realistic? Are we too focused on that? And is that why mainstream viewers that we are now accessing, previously before social media came along, nobody that didn't really know anything about airsoft would really see anything to do with airsoft. The advent of social media now means people look in from the outside, they see things out of context, they get scared by it, they don't understand it, there's nobody there explaining it to them, they just jump in and see a load of guys running through the woods, and they say, what are these guys, are they training to be terrorists, are they training to attack somebody? Is the way forward to just give that up a little bit and put a forward, outward face on it, less threatening?
I think it's two questions, one which Gad brought up, one to address yours, Ben. My perspective is just my perspective. I think, yes, we have made a rod for our own backs for exactly the reasons you've said. When we use very personal forums where we would discuss certain things, they were with people, as you say, of a like mind. It was very private, it was almost behind the scenes. As Airsoft has grown and continues to grow, with social media, it's very, and I'm going to say it, we've all seen a post where you just hold your head in your hands and go, why have you done this? Why have you put a picture of yourselves up with this flag? What is going on in your mind that you even consider that? But it's a very quick hit, isn't it? It's a very, as you say, I can just post it, fire it, forget it, that's it. It's not going to have a ramification. And I think that there is that lack of responsibility, and I'm going to say it in many, many formats.
And that's the difference, I think, between professional media
Correct.
and everyone else who has the ability to press a button on Facebook and upload. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, basically, with a professional facing portrayal of Airsoft, that is going to be portrayed in a way that is not exactly what you described there. It's just being portrayed in a more professional manner that isn't just running around in the woods. There are so many different streams.
So I think maybe something to take away from it, I think you're trying to wrap things, something to take away from it would perhaps be to remember in our desperation to reach big numbers, remember the knock-on effect of that is that people that don't understand it will see it.
Correct.
So maybe we need to be more responsible where we put it.
Yeah, I've got very short thoughts on that. The thing with paintball is they have the option to sort of demilitarize it and become a sport where you tag each other with markers and they get rid of the military clothing. But I don't think Airsoft's got that option. I think we are a military simulation, and that's what's fun and cool about it. But we can do better. If you look on, most people seem to be finding Airsoft through YouTube these days. If you look at all the top YouTube videos there, this gun really hurts people, these guys have a big fight, Airsoft cheater, Airsoft cheater, Airsoft cheater. They're not positive images for Airsoft. And like you say, my personal feeling is we need to just come out of our shell, launch Airsoft, show them how great we are, what a great community we are, what a great sport it is, and how good it is for the people to be involved, and just try and show people.
And then now we go to the next topic. Do know there's an after party. We have plenty of time to discuss it further. Yes, yeah. We have two more topics to cover, and just a few minutes left. HPA and Airsoft. That's also a big topic in the community right now. The question is it sustainable in the future? What are your thoughts? Hello?
I'm gonna take the old man's perspective. No, it's fine. I'm gonna take again the old man's perspective. Obviously, I'm British. When I was first looking at Airsoft, there was a wonderful company called Asahi, that some of you might remember, and they produced a fantastic replica of the British Sterling submachine gun. And that Sterling submachine gun had a very long tube that ran to a bottle. We're back. People are saying, yes, the technology is advanced, but has the principle, is it something new? No, it's not. Has it got longevity? It's never going to go away.
HPA today was the system of BTW of 7 years ago. For you people who've been around for a long time, there's always been a demon. I think, especially having the perspective of seeing HPA kind of from its roots in the United States, it's caused challenges because it does allow the bad actors easier access to a tool that they can get what they want. Before that, it was dual second gear builds. Before that, it was the system of PTW where you could change the cylinder, chrono with one, put the red one in instead, and go out and shoot people really hard. It has nothing to do with the tool. It has everything to do with the player, and it comes down to, I think, and not to go too deep into a topic, and I'll pass the mic off here, mentoring the younger players, mentoring the new players, reinforcing the rules and following it. I think, honestly, HPA is fine. I think it is the witch hunt or the red herring or whatever analogy you want to use in this situation at the moment. I'm sure in 5 or 10 years we'll be talking about is, you know, electro-pneumatic guns the problem, or the railgun driven, you know, like magnetic piston driven guns the problem. We'll have a new topic we'll be talking in 7 or 10 years about, is this the problem of airsoft? I think it just comes down to educating the players, good referees, and fields, more than anything, not being afraid to remove maybe a player that comes and spends a little bit of money that's running off the newer players that, you know, the 8 or 10 they get shot up every single time they go play for the first time and will never come back. Field owners, I think it's their ultimate responsibility to police their own. So that's my 2 cents on it, at least.
Well, Mike, I think you might have some thoughts about that.
This HPA is a popular thing, really. I heard about it all IWA. In Czech Republic, most games just banned the HPA. Because you know what? In Czech Republic, the players always used to play with 150 meters per second. We called it the Central Bohemian Standard. If you don't want to play, you need to shoot far. Otherwise, it's a disadvantage. And now there was a lot of discussions like cheating here, cheating there. Well, for me, airsoft was always a gentleman's sport based on honor from the principle. Yeah? If somebody has strong gun or not strong gun, depends on the field rules. Yeah? I haven't banned HPA so far in 10 years. I have no problem with it. When I see it's a problem, I ban it. I don't care, you know, because I ban people from the game. It's like the rules are for everybody. They are done the way that everybody should have fun and nobody should get hurt. Yeah. But if it's shooting according to the rules given on the field, I see no problem. And always there would be an airsoft shooter somehow. Always. From the beginning there was. There would be just take these people, identify them, remove them, ban them, and that's it. Let's move forward. There is so many other things to focus on. You know, than just. And we sometimes say if they don't admit it, just shoot them better.
Hi, I have had a fetish for projectiles for a very, very long time. I kind of started with home-built stuff in my backyard, and then moved on to paintball, and then moved into airsoft, and I'm still around. Paintball has gone through a significant array of safety issues with their high-pressure gases, CO2, and then eventually HPA. Terrible accidents like bottle fittings coming off of the tank end, and then the bottle becoming a rocket and blasting through plywood walls. There have been a few individuals who have been killed in paintball by high-pressure gases. And paintball now can employ these high-pressure gases quite safely, and they now have significant, robust regulations under the ASTM standard in America and other standards around the world. I think it is important for manufacturers to look at accidents that paintball has had and their standards and employ these measures before we suffer the same injuries and accidents that they have. And what I see in HPA right now is a little too much of a wild, wild west. I'm not one to just stand in front of technologies. I love technologies and I design them all the time. Many parties have asked me, why don't I design products with HPA and CO2? I've specifically avoided those gases because I design my products against individuals like myself who have a habit of tooling around and sometimes making things quite dangerous. I mean, now I have facilities, I can hydro test my own pressure vessels and all that, but I avoid them because I don't think I'm responsible enough to be a proofing house and make sure that my products are robustly safe with HPA. And I implore other manufacturers of HPA products to be responsible, look at ASTM standards as they apply to paintball, and see if we can produce our own regulations and standards before we become a problem. Because if you're worried about this YouTube issue of kids being a little aggressive and painting a really ugly light on our game, you know, actual safety with high pressure gases is one of those issues.
Carlton, on that note, Do you think companies like IWA2018 and Tippmann, who are already employing ASTM standards, giving the bills and products, do you think they kind of are in a way leading the way? Do you think there should be an organization that really force ASTM standards beyond just the manufacturers that have peripheral products where they already have to do it because they're working in other industries like air guns and things like that, where those requirements were in place?
I can't say about LOUISE. I have no business deals with them. But I first met Dennis Tippmann at an ASTM conference when it came to Toronto, maybe 12 years ago. And he comes from the paintball world, and I think it's great that he's getting into airsoft and bringing some of these concerns. The first ASTM conference I attended in Toronto, some airsoft manufacturers had sent representatives to do some really strange things for marketing purposes and set regulations that I think were really very irresponsible because they resulted in nicer numbers on the box, but a less safe situation in the long term for airsoft. If we want to be responsible, we need to attend these conferences that set standards and protect our industry. We need to be responsible. I mean, marketing is important for us, but we also have to protect our market users. They are who we're serving, so we need to look out for them. So I got to tip my hat to Dennis, because he comes through this long history of learning from these ugly accidents, and I like how he's joined the airsoft panels in the ASTM conference because he brings that wisdom. I mean, I've seen really bad glasses standards being put together, and I remember seeing a representative from JT Spectra talking about accidents they've had with players wearing motorcycle helmets, thinking they were well protected, and laying prone, a player wearing a motorcycle helmet was blinded when he took fire from behind while laying prone, because it shot right up the opening under the chin and hit him in the eye socket. We need to be concerned about these things. Well, we have the opportunity to learn from their accidents and develop good standards for eye protection. I mean, there's a reason why paintball masks have this lower face shield, which we usually yank off because it's not cool and it prevents us from shouldering a stock. The reason there's a lower mask is fitting goggles so they seal around the nose is reliably difficult. Everybody's nose is quite different. And in paintball, they learn that since they can't reliably seal around the nose, the standards require that lower face mask. In case somebody has a nose that doesn't fit well and there's an open gap, it's closed up secondarily by that lower mask. So what we need to do is, if we get into airsoft masks, is design lower masks that do allow the player to shoulder their rifle so they don't have to take it off.
We've got another question. Yes, there you go.
Question, maybe a proposition for ruling. It's all about safety production, I hear, but most of the discussing on internet, players' fields, and between players is about, mostly I hear about dual creep and rate of fire. And I get that. I'm an HPA player now, but I'm set at about 10 rounds a second. And I hear people saying, I need more, I've got 40 rounds a second, I need to get 50, and I don't get that. So maybe we can get these rules in. And I want to know what you all think of that.
I may say something very unpopular here. I think the only way to get around that, and this may be a way back to the paintball world, I think the only way you can truly control dual creep, truly control the player not chronoing with 0.20 gram BB and then going and loading up 0.43s and taking advantage of every gun's dual creep, but HPA and green gas powered guns, CO2 powered guns, obviously a little bit more, I believe, I'm not a physics guy, Carlton's probably better at that than me, is a standardized BB at each field. That's the only way I can think of doing it, honestly, and I would welcome a discussion. It can be hyper unpopular. You can't use your field, your regular BBs when you play fields, but that would be the only way. I mean, otherwise you're checking BBs, which could be another way too. You're checking BBs. What are you gonna weigh every single one? But I would love to open this up. Like I said, that might be a very unpopular opinion, but my knowledge, don't know of another way to really avoid it, so.
Well, I think that a starting point to getting players on top of understanding dual creep and is to stop talking about FPS, and because the laws are set in energy, muzzle energy, joules. We're all talking about FPS, and in between the players are really getting confused. That's what
One final question. Sorry, can I just make one point before we move on? I think this is a very important discussion, and it's something which certainly in the UK we have addressed in terms of certainly print media. When Ben was with Other magazine, that I won't mention now, we made a decision between us that basically we would give power in both feet per second and joule. And that from us was our starting point of how we can find common ground that people will begin to accept joule.
I believe we have a nice example here from Japan.
Hi, I'm Masaki from LOUISE. Pleasure meeting you guys. Well, it's, again, I probably present something not so popular, but in Japan, it's mandatory. We have to play under 1 joule. And, you know, back those laws kicked in, everybody assumed manufacturer like us will be out of business because customing your air gun, airsoft gun, meaning like more power, you know, more speed. But you know, it's a government that only allows you to play under 1 joule. We go for the accuracy, or we go for other genre that you know we could explore. And luckily, we're still in business. Kicking in that under 1 joule law gave us a great benefit on the other way around, bringing lots of new young players. They get also scared of playing with high-power guns. And also, that's something to do with the beautiful face right there. We got lots of female players. Oh, yeah, lots of female players. See, it's only natural that you know more female players shows up because it doesn't really hurt that much under 1 joule. If more girls showing up in the field, the guys more showing up. You know, that's a healthy cycle. So. That way, our industry, our hobby, I should say, is booming. So, for a long-time player, listening all the people have to say about, well, maybe we should lower the power, lower the firing rate, feels somewhat lacking the privilege or the investment that they made for the guns are taken away. But to sustain your hobby, stay in the business, that could work not against you, work benefit you. So that's something from Japan that I can figure out.
Can I say something very practical?
Very short.
It's a Juki thing. It was a new word for me 2 days ago. Now I didn't think of it. This is all ideas, but. My crew is going to, in 1 month, on our event, chrono 15,000 guns in 2 days of all the players, because everybody, they bring the trolleys and they have many. Really, I never saw it, but once they come, they have like 10 guns per person. And before I went here, I was speaking with a guy who told about it, and I told him, why don't you come in with your guys, and we make a special chrono station for HPA, bring all these things for this tournament round, and after the game, or after, let's say, the chrono part, I want to see the statistic, first of all, how many of these guns we have. We will measure it without BBs. We apply this law. You don't have a law, bye-bye, tra-la-la, use other gun, or just you don't play. It's very simple. I like the rules fair for everybody. And we will apply this process. And after that means in like 1 month and a half, we will have the analysis, what does it really mean? Because it's like chronoing 15,000 guns, you need 23 people plus volunteers, and it's a process. And all together you say, yeah, you apply it in the field, but because of some HPA hiring extra people, which you need to, you know, also take care of, you know, and train how to do it, because not everybody knows it. It's a special effort, you know. And at the end, it might reflect also on the community, because if you would have fields where you have special people for HPAs, maybe they would charge more for it.
They do already, though.
Yeah,
all
you know?
over the United States.
It's just like this new technology sometimes needs to take a special care, and that's how I would close it. So I will tell you next time how it went. No?
Okay. Keep us informed. We have a few minutes left, and I would like to learn maybe even more from the paintball community. This is our last topic. It's about community growth. Now what we are looking at is Google search queries. from 2004 till to date actually. And luckily Airsoft is in the blue, and red are the paintball search queries. You can find this information on Google Trends. It's public. And as you can see, it decreased significantly, about 80% over the years. It's a time span, by the way, from 2004 till today.
So this is really interesting to hear. Ron chose this last week. And this is really interesting because we all know that Airsoft has definitely grown since 2004, there's no doubt in my mind. But do you think there's any other factors in here, like are people searching for it more on other platforms?
Well, Google is the #1 search engine in the world. It covers about 98% of all searches. But I do think some minorities are left out. I do think it gives a nice general trend overall.
I think it's what's reflected in the dip, and not a climb, is, as you say, what is the portal to the internet now? What is the generic homepage? People are using their phone for, they're not logging onto the desktop computer like they were back in 2004. They don't open up their phone and see Google straight away. They open up their phone and their gateway to the internet is Facebook. So they're not Google searching, they're looking for hashtags, they're looking for a Facebook group. It's just a changing trend.
Yeah, it's more a behavior thing.
Yeah.
And what's your feeling about community growth in general? Are we climbing? Are we growing as a community? As I look at IWA, for example, I see more and more people showing up at the meetup. I see more and more businesses, more and more booths. Maybe next year we have our own hall with the Airsoft companies. So I do think we do have a nice growth.
I agree. I think I agree with Ben as well. It's just a change in how people are finding things, different ways of sharing information, different community portals. Again, I've actually seen a move back away from things like Facebook and Google and what have you, where people have reinvented the forum and are now having discussions, being invited to forums as much as finding things. So, I think we're in a change again.
In terms of growth, as well as getting away from talking about Facebook for a minute, I've kind of had a bit of a break in going to shooting shows. 3 years ago, I was going to shooting shows quite a lot. Talking about in the UK specifically, but you visit a shooting show 3 years ago, and real still shooters were actively disparaging about Airsoft. They didn't like Airsoft, they wanted nothing to do with it. They dismissed it completely and were viciously attacking it. They thought it was an affront. Fast forward 3 years, I've been out of it completely, and the contrast is totally different. We visited the British shooting show, which is a traditional tweed, flat caps, shotguns, and wood stocks show. This year, even on the pre-show trade day, there were mystery ranch backpacks floating around. There were Molly backpacks. There were khaki combats. There were Under Armour shirts and camo. That's the sort of stuff that was used to have been dismissed completely. The community growth, or even shooting, I guess shooting in itself is probably growing a little, but the wider shooting industry is now becoming more accepting of Airsoft and what we do as Airsofters.
I think the wider population, if you look at the amount of former paintball sites that are now taking on maybe one Airsoft event a week, and now it's 2 a week. If you look at big franchises like Skirmish pretty much do Airsoft as much as they do paintball now. Because I don't know if it's more commercially viable, or it's commercially acceptable to the public, but it's definitely creeping up ahead.
So Kelly?
Thank you. There is one trend I have noticed since I started Airsofting. So I started playing in 2014, so I'm quite a big Airsofter. But when I was there, I would be the only girl on the field. Now I'm lucky if I go to a site and I am the only girl. Like there's so many women there, there's like 4 or 5, which is a really huge growth for us, and it's really good. And I think coming back to the social media and the accessibility of Airsoft, I think that has really, really helped. So social media and women being on social media and being really present within the community have helped my part of the community to grow. So I am in a women's Airsoft group, Women Airsoft, and basically it is a sisterhood of women who basically we come together from all over the world everyone comes into a forum, and you know, we talk about what's good for airsoft women, what trousers, all that sort of stuff, and it's been really particularly interesting, and it's amazing to see how it has grown. And I don't think airsoft is different as much as that says, quite honestly. I think that's fake news. Fake news for making it.
It definitely took a dip in 2012, I'll tell you that for sure. I think you ask any manufacturer, any retailer in this room, and they can tell you that from 2012 till today, they've seen a different set of numbers than they had before. So absolutely, I think so. And I think a lot of that is not just the interest in the hobby, though. It might be the way the hobby's going, a lot of focus toward lower cost guns. But as for this, I think you hit the nail on the head. Facebook groups are probably one of the bigger reasons. YouTube being a search engine, also, a lot of people forget that. There's a lot of other factors involved of why this may not be
totally
the big picture. Correct.
But I think, oh, sorry,
We've got a question. I have a question.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Thomas.
Hi, Thomas.
I got a little.
Hi, Thomas.
Hello. Hi. A little quick note. The blue one was Airsoft.
Yeah.
So it's actually declining as well with paintball.
Yeah. That's correct.
So should that be some kind of concern that paintball might be falling in Google Trends, but as well as Airsoft?
That was the, yeah. What do you think?
I don't think.
I
know. It could be any number of things. You kind of mentioned it before. Social media is playing a different role these days. Searches are going towards that. We all know that YouTube is the second biggest search engine. So it's easier to search for lifestyle hobbies.
That would be interesting to compare
YouTube instead of
YouTube also.
I think there's one thing you can take away from this, which is if this is a cross-section of searches, the start paintball is dominating airsoft, and over here we're pretty much even. I mean, that's huge progress, right? I mean, look at the gap there, look at the gap here. If you just consider this as a cross-section. Yeah.
Just want to add something to that. I think with this as well, I know definitely for me, if I want to go find something airsoft, I will not go into Google and be like, airsoft. I'll go onto Instagram, I'll hashtag whatever I'm looking for. I'll go into an airsoft store's website, search it in there. The only time I would ever actually use Google for something airsoft is if it's something that I'm not sure where I can get it or not sure what it is. And there's so many other outlets you can find it. Is it what everyone's using? Maybe not. Maybe not.
Well, I think this is just a proof of one thing which we are seeing practically in the field. You know? It's not about just how people search on the Facebooks and the social media. It's actually the mindset of players which are coming. You know, back in 2004, you know, the airsoft was a special hobby. Not everybody known about it, and it was really kind of a sacred thing. Yeah, you have to search for uniforms, you know, and everybody was more into this reenactment, and you did something, and then it was not about a high power, and because even people didn't have money to do the upgrades because the guns were quite expensive. And it was just, I would say, a bit more less retail as it is now. That's maybe the thing, because then today, if I want to look like a Navy SEAL, I go to a website, put Navy SEAL's uniform, gear, guns, everything, press button, hey, father, pay €1,000, and I look like a Navy SEAL. and that's bringing a type of people who may sustain with a hobby for 2 years, and then say, okay, let's move to some other trendy hobby.
Yeah,
you know?
I worry that players have turned from sportsmen into consumers sometimes.
Something like that, and I see it sometimes because, of course, we have a large game field, and our game is a milsim game. We run it based upon the military procedures, and some at least basic skills are required for the people. And then sometimes you see people which I have my doubts, yeah, how they gonna make it, because these are this consumer. You know, like everybody is welcome to come, but at least.
I'm going to make I think a fundamental point as well. If you go back to the 1st of January 2004, certain people of my age, suddenly we had this wonderful thing called the internet, and we could find anything. And boy, would we look at everything and anything. Now I think, as you say, people are becoming much more focused to where they find things, much more focused into what they're searching for. For me, it was like, wow, I can find all this stuff, and I keep looking for it. Or I haven't stopped looking for it. But now my own searches are much more focused. So I think the numbers perhaps there are misrepresentative of the true nature.
We've got one final note here from Max.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but another trend I noticed is that between the whole community itself, right? So everyone has their own hobby cycle. Everyone eventually would grow out of a hobby and everything. And obviously, airsoft, it's already considering a pretty old hobby, I would say. Would you agree? And established hobby, exactly. Now, and we are trying to find a way to refresh it, right? We try to have Nielsen games, scenario games, and everything. Now, with all these adding up together, essentially, we're making the entry barrier actually a lot higher. I mean, think of Nielsen game. You gotta have a full set of kit, and then you gotta have a decent gun. Outfit has to match a uniform, and someone that doesn't have the money and budget of it, just try to get into the sport, that's hard. And then skirmish, a lot of older players find it boring already. And now we ended up having company always trying to think of ways to compete each other and then find, maybe cheaper price or higher FPS or lower range. But we're actually all still digging within the same pie. And then we also have communities or elder players that are exiting from the sport, but we're not bringing enough fresh blood. So that is another reason why I think it may be dropped. Would you guys agree with that?
How's it going in Hong Kong? Because Hong Kong players tell me that the
It's
airsoft
dropping.
operation is really
It's dropping.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people move to competitive shooting because all you need is a race belt and a high kappa and some mags. iPro, you're done. So it's a lot easier, a lot more fast paced. I can just bring a belt with a small bag and I can go and shoot for a couple hours and then head home. Whereas a Muslim game, you will need.
In terms of searches, we were looking for, we'll take this as being a search based on airsoft. If that search is now still somebody will say, okay, they're only going to find one high kappa.
Yep.
The search has changed from airsoft
to high kappa.
To high kappa.
Exactly.
And also to race belts, to this, to that, not airsoft.
Right. Now
So
that's
it's
the reason.
Changed the parameters.
Exactly. Now the next thing I'm thinking is no one is curious about the sport. We're not making enough noise about the sport. Hence, that's why I think it may have been starting to dip. Yeah.
So we need to lower the entrance barrier.
I think that's something
we
we
need
need
to
to
raise
look
our
into.
voice.
Exactly.
About sport.
I mean, like swimming, you see a pond, swimsuit, we're done.
There you go. Carvan has a final question. Then we need to go move forward.
I think Mr. Masaki has identified an interesting opportunity to us. Perhaps our game has evolved in a direction which we have raised the barrier to entry for all of the very, very big games. It requires a lot of equipment and a very expensive upgrade gun, and which has also made it frightening for new players to join. You're up against very serious players who look very serious and form very tight, integrated groups. New players get intimidated by that. Maybe what we need is to increase the depth of our hobby and have an entry-level tier of games which are really fun, low jewel limit, so you just run out with a stock gun, a few mags, not a pile of gear, maybe just a high cap. Have some fun, lots of players, make it really approachable, and then have another tier of games with more advanced equipment. So then we have a vibrant economy of airsoft, of very easy entry, little modern play, and then very advanced play. Because really good hobbies in my memory, when I built ready to control airplanes and paintball, you play walk-on games, you play more serious games, and it gives you a lot of room to grow. And I remember Canada, when airsoft was really nerdy, we had less serious games and more serious games, and most players were at least, eventually became 5-year players and 10-year players. And the 10-year players would play with mostly 5 to 10-year players. And the entry-level players would play mostly with entry-level players, but they looked up to the 5-year players who did have a little more kit, better stuff, and there was always something to look up to. I think for our hobby to really be vibrant, we need to be welcoming to new players and give them something to look up to. And those modern players have something else to look up to. And then that makes you really want to stay in the game.
I think it's more than just the tiers, though. I think it kind of comes back around to something I mentioned early on when I slipped in a little late. That it's the lack of the mentor. When I started, someone brought me under their wing. I'm sure I played with airsoft guns, I owned a bunch, first time in the field. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, really, I was totally new to it. So I had someone help me. I was fortunate enough to have someone, hey, come on out. I've been here a while. I'll teach you. And I think that is the core component. If you really look across the board, as I've traveled around the United States and across the world now, I think ultimately it's a bit of elitism of the players that are older, to your point, the looking up to, that when they are looked up to, that you get back to the younger ones, the newer players. I think that's really what will change everything about the sport and the hobby of airsoft, is we get that mentor attitude back into what we do.
Okay, thank you very much, Jonathan. So maybe we grow too hard because we don't have enough mentors. Food for thought. So after the meeting, we have an after party to discuss. I would like to thank the panel.